All right, guys, we're here today in the OG Mac shop, aka my home shop, kind of where Nick and I started. We're gonna do a little video basically about the GapTrain and kind of where we started at the beginning of the year and where we're at now and kind of where we're going to be going shortly. It was a very eventful year for the truck, to be honest. It was really rough up front. We had a lot of things we had to work through, a lot of things we broke, and we didn't really get a chance to post all of it and really talk about a lot of it between the shop being so busy and, you know, kids and everything else on my end. It gets really tough sometimes to get all that out there, but we're gonna try to do a better job and kind of start now and just give everybody the lowdown on where the truck's at. We get questions every week, a lot of questions every week on different aspects of it and how things are put together or what we did in situations to make some of the things fit like they do and work like it does. We're gonna start it off with kind of telling you where we've been. You know, it kind of started 2020. We go to Horsepower Wars. We go out there and hoping to get an S10, hoping to get that truck, and we're very lucky. Everybody worked their butt off, and we did. So we win the truck, we get to bring it home, and it's like August, right? The show doesn't even come out till December, but they tell us we're not even allowed, we can't talk about the truck, we can't show the truck to anybody, we can't say nothing about it until the season on Mac or Mav TV ends. So, like, how do you have this thing sitting around in your garage looking all weird and crazy and different and not talk about it or show all your friends? So the worst thing for us was like we couldn't race it because we knew we had something that would work pretty good, and we really wanted to just get the truck out and beat the shit out of it. And so it was a long amount of time between those two things happening because that was August, and you know the season on Mav TV didn't end until like the first of the year, about this time last year, maybe a couple weeks later. So we had almost 6 months, 5 months of just sitting with this thing, and it literally just sat in the corner of the shop and did nothing. We drove it a couple of times. I think the first time I took it out, it got stuck on the side of the road. The valve cover gaskets are leaking. I think we stole rockers off of it for a minute, and Nick didn't put the gaskets back on the valve covers, and we put them in. I get halfway home and it's leaking oil everywhere, and I look like I'm on fire. And then I'm like on one of the busiest streets in town on the side of the road with something that looks like this, hoping that everybody isn't going to see it and take pictures and post it all over 260 Underground and Fort Wayne YOLO, whatever. So it was a little, that just kind of sums up how the season actually even went. So, you know, fast forward to get through the whole season of the show, we finally get it out. Now, the big thing was, the first race we were going to do with it was Civil War 2 down in Mississippi. And, you know, the plan was to pretty much have it similar to how we had on the show, which would have been the SBE all aluminum 5.3 up front. We had the Roberts 88 on it, basically. That was what we had on the show. We'd already had the truck on the dyno at that point. We knew it made close to 1,000 wheel. So we knew that was a decent amount of power. Early in the year, especially, the cars were a lot slower, and we were still figuring this thing out. So, you know, right about that time, I think the race was in February, you know, January 1, we decide, hey, we get a motor. Nick had a motor getting kind of built for Maliboost. Maliboost got sold. So now all of a sudden we get this little SBE, gets to go away, and now we get an all aluminum 5.3 rod and piston rotator motor. So super happy, excited, because now we got something that, you know, we can't just knock the rods out of it 10 minutes into racing. We can get after it a bunch. And so that's really awesome, right? Really excited. So we get that motor. We say, all right, let's get ready to throw that thing in. And then Nick had this crazy idea, like he sometimes does, and you know, wasn't 100% on board at first. I mean, was worried that we wouldn't be able to go racing in time, but he's like, hey, we need more travel out of the front end. I think stock this thing had maybe 6 inches of travel, something like that. And he's like, dude, we can get like 10 inches or more. We need a lot of travel. So he has the crazy idea of, let's do this long travel deal. Let's put basically like off-road front suspension on it and see what that does. And it was like, we thought about it for a little bit and decided, all right, good idea. Obviously, now looking back, brilliant idea, Nicholas. So we go ahead, get the spring stuff knocked out front. This little picture they're starting out with. Nick did a great job.
Might I say like trophy truck style, like Baja pre-runner style front suspension.
Wow.
I'll jack it up and you can see how gnarly the travel is. I don't even know if I can get the jack under it right now. So as you can see, it looks completely gnarly. It literally, you know, with our old suspension, our tires would have been at least 3 to 4 inches in the air by now.
We get the front suspension done. We have this awesome rod and piston 5.3, right? So also at that point in time, like I'm deciding we need to get the best parts. I'm not going to race my car. I decide in 2021, it's heavy. It doesn't quite fit the, you know, it doesn't fit really well in the backtrack stuff, which is what we want to focus on. And it was decided then that like, all right, Nick's going to race Mountain Dew. I'm going to race the truck. I want to gather up everything I have that's the best parts and kind of put them in the truck. So the poor Camaro, it donated my really nice RPM transmission built Turbo 400 with the freaking basically reed case, all the good stuff on it. You know, at that point it was like the converter out of it, I think we had then was maybe a PTC converter for it. The Dominator, because we were on a Terminator in the truck, so, and we want some more IO, so we decided let's pull the Terminator out of it. And that's when corporate turned into a parts car. But you know, someday it's going to return again for sure. So we take all that stuff up, and we're only like, you know, probably a few weeks out from the race at that point when this was kind of decided. So we take all those good parts out of the car, transmission, ECU, everything, and throw it in the truck. Slam it in there. You know, it's all doing really good. I think when we dynoed it the first time, it probably had it. I think we had on the Terminator. Then we get all this stuff in it, dyno it again, make sure everything's dialed in with it. Nice advantage of having a hubs at your own shop. Everything's great. And then I had a turbo that came in. Robert was hooking us up with a 91, 99 new turbo he had, bigger compressor wheel, something he hadn't really even had online yet, and wanted me to try it on the Camaro. Well, what do you know? It was laying there and the Camaro's not racing, so decision was made, let's throw it on the top of this thing. Let's make a little more horsepower, get rid of our OEM 8088 that we had on there, and like really try to get after it. So it took a little bit more fab work on our end. It was almost a bolt-on because, you know, we got a T6. It's a T6 flange deal, similar to what the 8088 was. Precision cut there on the nice Lexan, and kind of how it all fits on that cover. That thing's a little bigger than the 8088. So it took a little bit of work to get it in there. But with Moo's help, Moo was new then. He had just started. So a lot of stuff was going on at the shop at the same time. So Moo had started. He was there to help us out. Zach had just kind of started at that point too. With everybody's help, we were kind of able to get this whole thing together and ready to go in a short amount of time. We're all excited. We get to go down south, right? Up here in Indiana in January, it's snowing, it's cold, it's not any fun. Everybody's depressed and miserable because there's nothing to do that we like to do, race car stuff at that point in time in our area. So you look very, you know, we get very excited, look forward to going down south to race at that time of the year. So we drag everything down there. We had Mountain Dew, a lot had changed on it. So, you know, we had tons of work to do there. I think we had just put it on methanol just before and had that whole fiasco. That's all on YouTube.
I guess the lid ain't on all the way.
Get down there. I think the first day of testing, I think I may have made 4 or 5 passes. And mind you, I'd never even been in the truck before. You know, Nick, I drove it on the street, but I'd never let off the button one time. You know, Nick raced it when we were at Horsepower Wars. We had to move the seat up so I could fit in it and reach the pedals actually. So I'd never done anything in the truck other than just drive it to my house a couple times, but never let off the button on the dang thing. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking at that point. So we decided, all right, make passes. First day went pretty good. Mountain Dew did good. The truck wasn't, we're testing on the backside of Emerald Coast. So we're very fortunate. Ryan Milliken let us come over there and test early. So first day of testing went pretty well. Really excited to come back for the second day. I believe, let's see if I can get this right. It was, we did have a little bit of oopsies. I think it was on the last pass of that first day. I think out of the burnout, we had to get on the brakes really hard, trying to do a short burnout on that kind of that back end stuff. And the truck kind of set weird when I got on the brakes. Whatever, make a pass. Come around, and I'm noticing like the front end's like kind of down low a little bit on the passenger side. And you know, we only had one catch can on at the time, and I think then we even had our one catch can that was like the AC. It was an AC evaporator or whatever it is that we had sitting on the firewall there. Then we were getting after it pretty good, and so it come off the track, freaking things are smoking, there's oil everywhere out of the catch can. And then I look down, and the shock mount right in here, you know, we didn't have the gussets and stuff at that point in time. We didn't have any of that. It was just this mount. It actually had broke. It cracked the tube right there, and you know, the freaking shock is just jammed up here.
It ripped the tube.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that tube must not be thick enough.
So that, you know, real exciting shit there. First day out, and made 3 or 4 passes, and we broke the front end, and oil's everywhere. But in, you know, normal fashion, like we do, how we do it, we got everything cleaned up that night, and we had a welder with us. Nick, we kind of, I don't think we were anticipating this, but you never know. So we brought the TIG with us, and I think Moo, we went ahead and just re-welded up that side while we were down there, so we could keep going. And then later, once we got home, we added those gussets that you see now. You know, part of the whole R&D process, I guess. But you know, so first day ends really great with oil over the place, and the shock mount broke off of it. So really excited, of course, there. I think I was either the first or second car down the track. I was anxious, so I was pretty early, pretty ready to get down the track. So get up there, a bunch of boost. I think the passes before, we were maybe on like 35-ish, 36. I mean, we were really getting after the little 5.3. I mean, we were having some fun with her. And let off the button, get almost to the stripe, and the thing takes, it sucks because nobody got video of this. Unbelievable.
Did you really?
Yeah, it just, dude, it started white smoke and steam. I'm like, oh, there goes the head gasket. Then all of a sudden you hear, and it didn't look like you were slowing down.
Oh no, it wasn't wanting. Well, I was really soft on the brake, like trying to just, but it wasn't going to stop. Like I was like trying to like.
It takes a huge move to the left. So, and it's almost right where the back, like the asphalt part of the shutdown ends. And I'm basically at the finish line coming the normal way. The truck takes a huge jump left, and I'm just like, oh shit, and there's smoke. I can't see it necessarily as I'm in the truck, and exhaust is out back choo-chooing, but smoke everywhere. All I can do is just try to hold on to it, and I'm trying just to get on the brakes real easy, because that's kind of the problem sometimes. This is normally a radial track, and we've seen this at a few places where, if depending on when last time they raced at radial wise, if there's not much sticky on that other end, it's kind of like a hockey puck, especially if it's cool out. So when you go to get on the brakes, you got to be kind of easy, or you'll just end up sliding around and all over the place. So the thing was wrong. It was right at the end of the 8th for us, going backwards, and basically, which is also the finish line going forward. So we're rolling. I think the thing was probably doing $125 or $120, something like that. Makes this huge move. So I'm just trying to slow it down, you know, and a little bit on the brakes and not hit the tree, because there I'm going freaking. I actually switched lanes, went from right all the way to the left lane, got it slowed down, thankfully, like about by the burnout box. Made the turn into a pit road there after the starting line of the track, and of course, there's water everywhere. it's a mess. Oil everywhere, water everywhere. Like, awesome. We're 4 passes into a new motor. Well, here's our loser's trophy today. Number 1 cylinder. We pushed a little water on that pass, and as you can tell, it just absolutely murdered it. So all the other cylinders looked good. You know, we really don't know why yet this is a problem log-wise. I mean, we were on a lot of boost, way north of 30, but timing was pretty good. Nothing else really looked off. AFR was on target, so it's either there's a chance maybe with these junk injectors, maybe we got one injector that gave up. Maybe we'll flow when we get back. Otherwise, you know, we might just be finding the limits of a stock block at the same, or stock head deck at the same time. You put that much to them, and this thing was really getting down thin the track when it let loose. Just kind of one of those things you play risk with a stock head and a stock block. And so, yeah, we get home, tear it apart. We got aluminum blocks. We'll get it back together. Let me just take you over here to that casualty, because I don't know if we showed it a whole lot, but what had happened was right there. Let's see if we can see her. Kind of got her torched out right there real nice. And so the lesson learned on that whole deal for us was, we'd used LS9 head gaskets, MLS head gaskets on 5.3s a lot in the past. Most of them were all iron block stuff. So what we failed to really see and realize was that LS9, where that fire ring is at, is really, really close, if not exactly on target, with only being where the aluminum meets the actual sleeve of that deal. So when it's bigger than that and you're not on the sleeve and sealing up all the combustion, or you lift the head just a little bit so that it can escape, as soon as that freaking stuff touches the aluminum, melted, gone. So yeah, within 5 passes, I have a new motor that we just ruined the block. It melted the head pretty good, but I think we were able to fix the head. And it's testing, so I didn't even get a race in the freaking race, which sucks the worst, because you want to go down there and race, didn't even make it past test day. You know, luckily we had a bunch of other guys, and Sean, all the guys really did good down at that race. Sean really kicked ass and went all the way to the finals. He did a hell of a job though. Yeah, it was a good time, but it was a rough time too. So depending how long I ramble on this deal, we may break this thing up a little bit. We get back home. We have about, I think, a month before the next race, roughly. I think we're going to Darlington. We got a month before the next race. Get home, pull the motor, realize it's screwed, hurry up. Call Ron. Ron had a block already. Ask him, beg him, Ron, if I bring you the rotator, can you get this other stock block ready to go? Get this rotator in it. We go racing in a month. Man, we're ready to do this. Can you help us out? And of course, Ron, he always does try to take care of us, and he was able to get it done in just the nick of time, but it was enough time. The weather happened to be really decent around here then. Digger dies like the end of March. So we get a chance to go test out back at Muncie, and we go out there making some test hits. I think I made about 3 or 4. Truck's just kicking ass. Things working great. At that point we're using second gear leave in the trans. We hadn't quite figured all the chassis stuff out yet. Second gear leave would definitely get me out of the 60, and we just had to give it some power, but it would get through there, no problem. Get through testing 4 or 5 passes, things rolling, feeling great, right? Let off the button again. Freaking thing, best pass is made yet ever. Everybody's hooting and hollering at the stripe. What's it do? Boom! My phone goes flying in the air. All I hear is shit rattling around, right? My phone, little beknownst to me, goes flying in the air, hits the roof of the truck. I don't know if we can see this. There's a little dinghy right there. Hits the roof of the truck, breaks my phone in half. I think I have it over there, just annihilates it, kills it. You know, at that, I figured a drive shaft broke, but I wasn't sure. So I get down to the end, slow down, and sure enough, drive shaft, gonzo. Twisted right up, broke right in half. Another real bummer. Because not only did it break the drive shaft, which, you know, this drive shaft is one that we built on the show. It was really the only option that everybody on the show had, honestly. At the time, it was a Summit drive shaft. You know, we learned a lot this year. So what we learned on drive shafts was, you know, in my mind, a 1350 U-joint was like what you needed in a drive shaft to make sure at most whatever power level you weren't going to break that thing in half. Well, there's like something called terminal speed or whatever, and that has to do with how thick, you know, your material and your wall thickness, and at whatever RPM that thing's turning. If you don't have the right material and the right wall thickness, it kind of turns into a noodle. And then at some point, that noodle decides it's done noodling around and decides to break in half. And that's where we ended up at. Broke in half. It, I don't know if we can see in the truck. It bashed the floor in. So what happens, that hit the floor, hit my phone hits the roof. And so whatever, all right, I'm not super upset yet at that point. I'm like, it made the best pass it ever made. Then the real bummer is my phone's broken in half. I can't even see what the draggy was. So now I don't even know what it went. That sucked. That was suck number one. So I don't know, it's really hard to tell, but right there, maybe you can see where it busted up the floor, the bed, all this part of the bed. It's still a little bit bowed. This stuff, all of it bashed up. So, you know, so that was enough work right there, right? We get home. We kind of seen it at the track, but I get home and start looking at the transmission, and sure enough, when it broke the tail shaft, or broke the drive shaft, it was enough of a shock, which you see this happen sometimes, that it actually pulled my transmission off the motor. It literally pulled the threads out of the SBE block, pulled them out, and had like 2 of them hanging on the transmission and broke the block. So recap, we are, you know, whatever, we're not even 10 passes in on my GapTrain career, and I've killed 2 blocks that were built blocks. So here we are spending all kinds of money. We're just trying to go racing, and I'm out here destroying engine blocks like it's my job. I think that casualty is, I don't know if we must have thrown it away or it must be at Mac. Oh yeah, it's filled at Mac. Well, a later attempt, we've used it as a filled block. We're going to try to use it and then didn't. But, you know, 10 passes in, we've shit canned 2 rod and piston blocks, aluminum ones at that, which aren't that easy to find anymore. Thank God Skunk Truck was lining me up with a bunch of them early in the year, and I had like 6 laying around. So here we are. That was a week before dig or die, and I have no motor. I ran the transmission down to RPM. They looked it over. Everything was good in the tranny. Miracle. Rear end, luckily again, didn't break anything on the rear end other than it broke the bearing, the what would be the outer pinion bearing, I guess, or whatever, the one closest to the yoke. It had some bad spots and there was some play there. So changed that out, changed the seal. That was good. Lucky. Changed the fluid too anyways. But no motor at this point. So what do we decide to throw in old reliable, the old 5.3 SBE that, you know, came out of the truck from the show. We had it laying around, decided let's just go ahead and throw it in. It's sitting here. It's an SBE. Obviously, we know what we can do with them. We're just going to try to take it easy. All right, try to take it easy. And we throw it in, do a little bit of dyno work, want to make sure the tune-up's close. Head down to dig or die. Dig or die was, I think, a pretty good time. I think I may have lost first round or something. I think I went, or maybe I went 3 rounds. I don't even remember. We do so much racing. It was good enough, though. A, nothing blew up. B, we won a couple rounds. That's all I ever want to do. Go a couple rounds, not blow anything up, not tear anything up, win-win. So that was a pretty good day there. I think I'm going to keep going over some of this, how we broke some stuff before we go over other stuff. We're going to have to break this up. This is going to be the everything we broke on GapTrain video this year. We're going to keep an SB motor in it because I'm at that point with 10, you know, then I had, you know, I probably made 3, if I went 3 rounds, made 3 or 4 passes, whatever, at dig or die. I'm 15 passes in. I'm still 2 motors down for the season. not wanting to do another, like, shit can another block. So we decided to keep the SB in it for a while until we work out some kinks, because we're obviously finding some weaknesses in the truck that hadn't shown up, you know, before when we built it, because we didn't make a lot of passes on it out there and we weren't that hard on it. So part of the problem with it, we had a stock truck intake on it there. The stock truck intake is badass. It makes really good power. With an SB, it's a little tough though, and we can see it on the dyno. It'll stop making power in the low 6s-ish, and it makes some good low end torque, which all those things are not good for SBE motors at all. You know, we want to be way away from any torque, and we want to be way above 6,000 all day. We want to live at 6,500 to 8,000-ish, some stuff like that. So, you know, that's that. Then the decision was made, we need a different intake. Truck intake doesn't work. We don't want to put a bunch of weight up here. So we decided to go with the old Holley Sniper intake, which to me, it weighs like 10 or 11 pounds. You just can't beat it for the money. It's like $600. Cylinder distribution is really good on it. You know, stock throttle body still works good. No problemo there. So we throw that thing on it, good to go. And that little motor went quite a while. It went all the way through, let's see, when did it break? Just before, I think it was in June, just before we went to Rocky Mountain Race Week. We were down at Salem and racing down there. They have an airport that's pretty much like a backtrack surface. We're down there racing, similar deal. The thing's just running great, kicking ass. Right at the stripe again. Boom, right? Shit goes flying everywhere. It let a rod loose.
Turbocharged S10 on its way. Sonoma coming, but nope.
Dude, that was the best SB motor we ever had. This really sucks. The thing had a hell of a good life, but it's finally over. He can rest in pieces now. She was rolling too. It was ripping. I'm like, yeah. And then right at the stripe, brrr. Like, no way. Really, it broke. And then smoke, fire. I mean, what was really scary, honestly, it was on fire under the hood, like bad. Everything was oil, so all the wrap was on fire and shit. So look at those guys had some water down here and they were able to clean it all up, thank goodness. But it's a mess. It was the best SB motor we ever had. Oh, I've destroyed her good, boys. I was almost free. We'll have a fire extinguisher now. That was a freak out.
Oh, it was.
Oh, it was on fire. Yeah. There's a lesson. That wrap catches fire and it started burning.
If you've watched anything on it, that SB motor was in Mountain Dew for a year and a half. It's been on all the power for a long time. It definitely had over 200 passes on it, at least in its life, and they were all very not happy passes to be done to it. So it let go, and there was that brings on the first fire incident. That was not a good time, you know. So when that happened, when it knocked the rods out of it, of course, oil goes everywhere. It knocked out, I think, let's just go see, I think it knocked out 3 and 5, which ended up being on the passenger side. Yeah, there it is, nice and beat up. Windowed her out pretty good. You can see right through it. When that happened, oil out the side, and then the way the truck is with the exhaust, you know, it's nice when your turbos are up front sometimes because you don't have anything behind the motor that's hot or anything really, you know, transmission a little bit, but nothing like exhaust. Well, not on this, right? So exhaust manifolds right there, and at the time they were wrapped, and as soon as the oil and stuff got on them, fire happened, and I'm at the end of the track with no fire extinguisher, and no one could hear could hear me like yelling that my damn thing's on fire. Luckily, I was racing, I think Guardrail Rob, somebody was racing was awesome. They came back and helped, and I was able to get it out with minimal damage to like basically nothing, just a little bit of burn up stuff, but nothing that important. So there, that motor dies. I think we had a couple weeks again until Rocky Mountain Race Week. I wasn't going to go, we didn't have time to put a good motor in it, and I wasn't ready to do a good motor yet still. So who comes in to save the day? Da, 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 da. Corporate again. The SB that I had in it was an aluminum 5.3 SB. It's already ready to go. Has my badass old school Baker cam in it. We throw it in, and we make it through Rocky Mountain. Now again, that motor had way over 100 passes, always 30 pounds or more, just getting the snot beat out of it. Put it in, go, and just give it its worst nightmare at Rocky Mountain Race Week, where we drive it 1,200 plus miles. The thing was at like 240 plus degrees all the time for a long time. Ran 35 pounds of boost through the shit, and it just loved it. Didn't have any issues, smooth, good to go. And we come back home after that, and I think I may have, I probably raced 2 or 3 more weekends at least. I feel like it's even more than that. I know I raced a bunch at Salem right when we got back. We made a lot more passes still once I got back. It probably made another 2 months, right? Then we're at Mentone for the infamous fire scene. So same as always, right? At the end of the stripe, big noise, shit goes flying everywhere, pull over, and it's on fire again. Same shit, the exhaust wrap, because it has a crossover too. It had wrap on it. As soon as oil gets on it, it might as well be like a freaking torch or something hanging around. Down there trying to scream, realized nobody can even see me to hear me, and was, you know, freaking out. I did have a fire extinguisher at that point, one of the little flare types, but dumbass here hadn't even learned how to use it, how to turn it on. I've never even strike the flare, so I didn't even know what the hell it was, how it worked, and kind of freaked out a little bit because I couldn't get it to start, and it was like burning pretty good then. And I think I don't know if I raced Pete's King Allen. I think it was Pete's King Allen, and you know, we were able to get the thing shut down, and before the fire guys finally got down there, was able to get everything done. And it burned up the harness a little bit, and it tore some stuff up a little bit more than the first one. And that's where we get the second window block of the season, and motor number 4 or 5, something like that. There's another good window. She gone. So we're almost halfway through the season, and I'm 4 blocks deep in this bad boy, having a good old time. At that point, I think then it was like, all right, we felt at least like we had a good feel. The tune-up was good. We hadn't broken any driveline stuff. All that was hanging tight. Now let's put the good motor in it. So again, we leaned on Ron. Ron was awesome about it. We were able to get him the rotator, same rotator that was in the first 2 death motors, and got another aluminum block. Ron slammed them all together, and that thing's been a happy camper ever since. And you know, the crazy thing is like with the SBE motor, it hasn't went any faster than it did with the SBE motor, really, because we can lean on it pretty hard. But at least now we don't really have to worry about it having too much issues. I will say on the last SBE motor, the one at Mentone, I was smart enough to have the diaper on it, and it was a big deal. That thing was full. When I got back and pulled it off, it was full of oil and full of parts. So we've obviously made the mistakes in the past, and I had diapers on these things. Put a diaper on it. I mean, I'm telling you, it's 100% worth it. It obviously doesn't get everything because the thing still had some fire, but it would have probably been a lot worse had it not been on there. So get you a cheap diaper. If anything, get something on there if you're going to run an SBE motor. So it's safe for yourself, if anything. You know, it's good for the track too, because you ain't going to oil the whole thing down, but keep yourself safe and your vehicle safe is the big thing. Getting older, getting a little bit smarter on some stuff. So I think that covers a lot of what I believe we broke this year. Man, it sure seemed like a lot more than that, but that was kind of I don't know how he's going to condense that 30 minutes into something that's people want to see, but hopefully he can. Then, yeah, I'm going to move on to, we're going to break there. And I think I'll move on to what the truck kind of can, just all like an overview of the whole truck. I think on the outside, I think I'll go over real quick, Zarek. Everything that motor wise, chassis wise, intercooler, tire wheel. I think I'm gonna do all that now, and then we'll put on the lift and look at stuff underneath.